Okay, hello everyone, welcome to another episode. The title is Meditation is Proof that the Body is a Vehicle. And I was wondering about, of course I can't say it's a proof in regards to a materialistic sense, only because we have a mind and this mind is unknown. But I was pretty much wondering, like another way you can see the title, is meditation proof that the body is a vehicle? Now, just to be someone on this planet who has said this sentence, meditation is proof that the body is a vehicle, I would like to explore where intelligence being active and witnessing itself, where that leads. Sometimes I try to think about what's going on our planet as if I am not from this planet. I try. What that means is the mind gives a human being an ability to empathize. Empathy means that you see something and you can emotionally translate it. Similarly, that means empathy is another way of seeing each other's emotional existence. Intelligence from an unknown causal position watches its own effect. In meditation, somebody by the name of Swami Krishnananda, he explained it very well in his book. He said that meditation, what he explained was that point in the mystic's life, in the sadhu's life, where meditation stops, where there is no longer meditation needed. Swami Krishnananda says meditation stops when one notices the inseparability of the individual activity with the cosmic activity. That means the moment the subject of the body and the subject of the world are seen to be one giant subject in the void, as a subject we are everything. As an object, we are a part of everything. And inevitably, the object becomes nothing. So, meditation leads to no longer being a self in a body. You know? That means it's fruition. Its fruition is you're no longer like self-world playing the game. I would say on an emotional level, it is like preferencelessness and opinionlessness in regards to being an object, as if you watch how you're being an object, and that's it. You watch it. You watch how the subject is moving the object, and you watch that. And then there comes the awareness that there is something watching right now. Like as I'm speaking, even though there's ideology around and I'm speaking through narrative structure, there is an awareness It's like, what can an object do? It can move. What can a subject do? It can become. Because personality is like an inner program externalizing, an inner program activating in the outer realms. Like right now, me speaking, before I spoke, the ideas were there, but then as I speak, the relationship with the ideas even change. I feel that the way we can notice that the body is a vehicle is by asking the question, can matter drive itself? And I feel this is one of the biggest questions in philosophy. Is matter moving on its own, or is matter independent of it's either like, what is matter moving, or what is moving matter? I feel, for example, let's say someone is sitting in your seat in the cinema and you ask them to leave. That's like something that is something moving matter. That's like sound generated from one moment in the space-time continuum asking another moment in the space-time continuum to move. So speech communication is something is moving matter. That means when somebody realizes they won the lottery, it's like, oh, they suddenly start crying. It's like, what are those tears? It's like something's moving matter. Something makes that lottery ticket more than just paper with numbers on it. It's just phenomenal how much of the world we see and its meaning, the meaning we extract from the world we see, is self-generated. And unless a person realizes this self-generation is kind of like climbing out of your own tunnel of ethnocentrism, one may not even be able to see the real world. That means what is more scarier or what is more stranger or shocking? What is more shocking than 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere is that these 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere, they don't even see that one rock. Everybody is starting, it's as if the world is an artwork in an art gallery. You know, it's like the Mona Lisa, and everybody's coming and looking at Mona Lisa and having different opinions on it. Right? So it's as if we are not in the same world, and language is here to connect our inner realms so we can do something phenomenal, something next level in the outer realms. Because the outer realms is where it's at. In the inner realms, everybody has freedom. In the inner realms, all the desires are fulfilled. Right? The inner realms are so advanced, you can even actualize it. Like when it comes to how would I speak about this elegantly? I'm trying to say that the inner realms can actualize reality and we can respond to it. I remember in my youth seeing a person, this tough person, and he was walking in a bag of chips that was broken, like a broken bag of chips, just like, you know, like flat, a bag of chips, kind of ripped. This bag of chips, the wind blew it to this person, this tough guy's legs from behind. So the guy's walking and a bag of chips, like an open bag of chips, a ripped bag of chips just hits the guy's like behind his shin, you know? And the person jumps up shouting, thinking it was a cat. I saw this. I saw this in front of me happen. A bag of chips hitting someone from behind where their shin is, and they suddenly freak out. And that's how fascinating our intelligence is. There is no such thing as knowledge. There is just alignment. There's just alignment to that which is as it is, and that which is as it wants to be. And you know, another thing that is kind of sad, but it's something the species has to go through, it's just the phase of our collective evolution, is that many people have to become content with the possibility that the world is not even ready to acknowledge the inner realms. What I mean by that is that there's some moments in life where the person may want something from that moment. But this wisdom of looking at things as they are, it surpasses the ego's preference. So what I mean is that we notice that anytime we watch matter, that is a subjective experience. You know, I'm going to test something. I'm going to ask people in the audience, I don't know how many people are listening. 4 people are listening, okay. 5 people are listening, okay. I'm going to ask people, what are you in this moment? Or I should ask, what is this moment? And, okay, let me write it again. Okay, I would say most people would treat the moment as a thought, right? And that's a grave error. The moment you treat yourself as a thought, you have enslaved yourself to image. That means if I treat myself as who I am right now, tomorrow I will go on being a different person and not having the acceptance of my own new eyes. Right? That's the thing in life. It's not just seeking wisdom, knowledge, information. It's after some point, whatever information the intelligence of the being has received, then comes the time for the ultimate question. So I would say I was living like a human being until I asked myself who I was. I wondered about what's looking through my eyes. If that question had not arose to me, if I had not wondered who is looking through my eyes, and if I hadn't noticed that was not a thought, like it can't be, that means if somebody asks you, who are you? And you say, I'm a good person. And then somebody asks you, who are you? Then you see, like in another day, you say, I'm a bad person. Then somebody asks you, who are you? And it's like this endless ability of the mind to give answers, right? So that just the multiple answers the mind gives you a suggestion that none of those answers are you. So I have memories, but I don't treat myself as if I am my memories. Because I am my memories plus whatever happened after the memory. The biggest thing I would say that the human beings, like being born on this planet and then exiting, like what human beings miss out in a society that they're trying to fit into, like this is the tragedy of the system right now, civilization 1.0, where people forget that they have also come here to meet their intelligence. That means, imagine It's like this. I remember hearing, for example, the scholar Terence McKenna, the scholar Alan Watts speak, and there was this passion to go and speak to them, right? Even though they were gone, they weren't in the they don't their voices only exist in the outer realms now. But there was something about it's as if like you can care to pull the strings in the outer realms and see where they lead, and you can pull the strings of your inner realms. When you pull the strings of your inner realms, you activate ability. But you activate that selflessly. That means it's this strange thing where people are trying to work hard. Yeah, set your mind to this task. Just be like a machine and, lock down on the target and just go forth until you achieve your dreams. That is not, that's too machine-like. I would say it's much more better to let oneself be surprised by their future. That means not everybody can touch, not many people can touch the future, but not many people can hold it. And what do we do with this, with the fact that like for example, like a camera, when you zoom into something, it becomes as big as the world was. Like, what's up with that, right? As if we all have a two-dimensional view on things, but there's three-dimensional stuff going on. So like it's as if a square suffering is not a cube, is not suffering for a cube. And so the weakness of the past has nothing to do in the future, with the future. I've had many moments where I would say, like, I tend to speak more about efficient imagery, but if I could share an inefficient imagery of my own life, you see, there are people who trust the outer realms easily, they distrust the inner realms. And there are people who trust the inner realms easily and distrust the outer realms. In my youth, I was like that. I distrusted the outer realms. I wouldn't say it was hate. It wasn't hate. It wasn't a distrust because I hated something or something wasn't going my way. It was a distrust, in as if like a distrust of purgatory, a distrust of the limbo state. That's what it was. It was as if like in the outer realms it was all an effort, but in the inner realms the effort is instantaneous. That means the energy it takes for a person to do 2 push-ups in the outer realms, in the inner realms that energy can be used to like speak about 10,000. So what I mean is like the inner realms takes less energy. If you notice it, you can move. Your mind can move. Usually the mind moves you, but the being can move their mind. It's only after they have, as George Baton says, you must serve before you command, and as the ancient sages would say, the mind is a lousy master but a great servant. What does that mean? That means when you find yourself in a moment where your mind has mastered you, this means you're a person who, like, something out of your will is moving you. Not even in a divine way. It's just like life isn't in your own control. Like your own life force isn't, as if we're not in the driver's seat of conscious living when we're unconsciously being moved. In the inner realms, a person can experience multiplicity in so many ways. You can see geometry as your body. You can see human ideology, the same ability a person has to be ambitious about a sense of self, of their own self in the future. Let's say an Olympian who wants to win the Olympics, that winning the Olympics in the inner realms, it's as if we don't realize how much fiction is expanding non-fiction. It's hilarious, you know. And in our modern society, we have banished, we have exiled imagination, not realizing it's an echo of reality in a subtler, in like another dimension, politically. You know, I was in a Tim Hortons drive-through. It was an intense event, guys. I was at a Tim Hortons drive-through, and then I was just looking at the person in front of me order, and for a moment I was like, what is moving our preferences to be something? You know, like it can't just be a dormancy of potential, right? Because if it was only outer realms, right, then self-movement shouldn't make sense. That means the way this was what I feel the mishap of logic, right? The mishap of logic, it has two mishaps. One is that it depends itself on the variables. So your logic is as powerful as the variables you're conscious of. That means if you are only in one room of a mansion and you use the logic of only that one room to figure out the whole mansion, your logic is limited. Right? In that one room, yeah, you're powerful, you're true, you're right, the logic works, but in many other states, it can fall apart, right? So there has to be some sort of experiential familiarity beyond whatever relationship the person has with language. You know, I saw this video, this documentary, this kid in India was like, in my view, he was a genius filmmaker, but I think he probably didn't know that, but so this kid made a documentary, a very simple documentary where he went to India, and in India there's there's this law that allows criminals to act like any person with a holy dress wear, they can't go to jail. Evidently there's a law like that, so there's a lot of people dressed like holy men, right, who are actually criminals trying to escape the consequences of their karma. Do you know? But at the same time, there's also many sincere and true mystics. That means India, when I was there for 2 months in Rishikesh, and there was a person named, we called him Tunaji. But anyways, he said a statement that was like one of those rare statements you hear. He said it takes more than one lifetime to explore India, to understand what India is. More than one lifetime. Like, it's that big. That means it's like even the interdimensional mysteries, you know, alongside. This kid had made a documentary. I saw this video. Anyways, in this documentary, it showed a lot of sincere yogis and mystics. They had gathered up into a mountain, and they were in some sense taking soma. Now, what does that mean? Pretty much, there's like the cannabis plant. In Indian culture, there's there's a karmic entanglement with also natural chemical altered states, right? So metaphysics has 2 dimensions. It has a ritualistic dimension, which is how you are attaching yourself to phenomena, and has a detachment, you know, a non-image dimension to it. right? So I'm trying to, when I speak about metaphysics, I'm trying to fly straight into the language threshold. I'm trying to find the edge. I'm trying to shake the language. I'm trying to see what else there is under this thin ice called language, you know, and it's in the intense thing, you know. It's like, you know, being in scuba gear and then going on ice and just like, you know, stomping on the ground like a madman, you know. That's like, man. And of course, that's just a metaphor. I mean, images must not always be taken seriously. But anyways, in this documentary, pretty much a group of yogis in India had joined around. They had these strange kind of pipes and these methods of smoking, and it was like Agori level yogis. That means if I show you a picture of these guys, you'll be shocked, like if there's people existing like this. These are intense. These are like, think of it this way: we see extremists in various ideological systems. This is like an extremist of yoga. You know, yogi, an extreme yogi, Agori yogis. Yet it's like everything has cultural value, right? So there's one view we can see culture and filter it through the lens of this is right, this is wrong, or we can look at it as a garden of just how human effort is growing, you know. That means it's just like an advanced civilization would be a civilization where the plants are watering themselves and each other well. Right there, that's what it means. But anyways, the Agori yogi, I will, just for the sake of just to honor what the encyclopedia did once upon a time. They're ascetic Shaiva sadhus. That means they're Shiva worshippers. They're extreme Shiva worshippers. Okay. Anyways, people can Google it. It's like there's an intense image. So in this documentary, this kid had gone into this gathering of these extreme yogis from different sects and traditions and deity worship and whatnot. And the kid suddenly had gone there and started talking to them like a chill person, right? He wasn't there like asking for truth or anything. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" Something on this level. And they started talking and started sharing wisdom with the kid, you know? And they said something that, this is the only thing I remember from the documentary, one of the intense yogis, and it's hilarious because from the outside you're like, oh my God, such an extreme person. But then when the kid was talking to the person, there's a human being there. It's phenomenal how many people on this planet that to us feel like our enemies are just human beings trying out their application of DNA. Like they're trying to be something, you know? That's the biggest thing of compassion. This was the moment when I realized any person I had fought with in my life, I had been the enemy. I had been the enemy to a moment. That's why I could see enemies. As if like it's like when the person, even for all those people, you know, when you realize everybody is fighting a battle you cannot see, everybody is in some sort of, in their inner realms has its own winds of intensity. So one of the yogis turns around to the kid and says, "This is the game of the gods." So casually, I was like, "Oh shit," you know. You know, it's like, "Hey man, what's this all about?" It's like, "Yeah, it's like the gods are playing chess, you know, and we're a part of it, you know." But there was something, the way that yogi said it gave away where I realized it's anguish. That means there's two, I would say, two contexts to those who go towards spirituality. Those who are trying to escape suffering, and those who are joy bringers. That means it's just the other side. That means one view is escapism, the other view is exploration. The explorer brings the news. You know, I can't wait until there's a revolution in media. I can't wait when you turn on your TV and there is a channel for everything being taught in any academic branch of the realm. That means if we could make TV our knowledge base, not just promoting garbage, you know what I mean? Not being like, not just meaningless fiction and you know, it's just that it's like these are simple chess moves the species can make, you know. Have the whole media sector, the global, you know, on a global level. I don't care who's listening, from where in the world they're listening. Just the global media start being like, wait a minute, people get entertained by what is new to them. Now we can choose that novelty to be meaningless, or we can choose that novelty to be meaningful, right? That means we should, in the future, there should probably be like these powdered like vitamin C. You know how you have like these powdered vitamin C's you pour in the water and just becomes some orange drink. but but it's like, imagine in the future you go and you, instead of it being a vitamin C, it's like it's saying vitamin C, it's like the encyclopedia in powder form. You put the encyclopedia in powder form in water, you know, and you drink it, and it's like, yeah, you got to know it instantly. You know, something like that. Where it's as if man is trying to become, have more of an intimate relationship with how nature is before we are in a certain way to want it to be in a certain. It's like the person bought, like, you know, encyclopedia powder. Can you imagine? Right now we're taking information from our visual sense, but imagine some next level chefs in the future, like, I don't know, chefs who had dreams of being like, I don't know, quantum physicists or next level people in the tech sector, you know. The chefs somehow make this where information can be eaten, or like you can drink knowledge. It's as if in the future the CEO will just drink a cup of tea when they come to work, and the CEO is just going to drink a cup of tea and it's going to know everything, every update of like the business, everything. Can you imagine? There's so many ways we can make language and speech obsolete, by the way. So that's why we have to remain as a foolish human being to not accidentally go towards inner self-extinction, you know. That means there was a character in this show, Dragon Ball Z, this Japanese what is it called, manga that's turned into a show, and they made the main character is like the strongest guy in the show, where everybody watches, oh my god, he's surpassing his power, you know, he's surpassing his limits. But when he came to Earth, that he was so powerful that he had no problem being a foolish, simple human being on Earth. That means it's as if like when it wasn't important, it was easy for him to be a fool. When it became an emergency, that's when the genius regards to March. what is moving matter? And it's not material. So it has to be a relationship like with a vehicle. I feel my body is a vehicle for my ego, but for the watcher within, the attributeless watcher within, that even moves the ego prior. It's like, okay, an object gives itself an opportunity to be a subject, then the subject gives the object an opportunity to move by generating parallel realities, right? So it's as if how a human decision is happening, and the human decision is pretty much free will, the study of free will. That means anybody who's wondering, who's doubting their own decisions, you're wondering about the nature of free will in there. You know, I just thought about it this way. It's like the body can be a vehicle for the mind. That means the known body vehicle for an unknown mind. We can have the mind be a vehicle for the body. That means the body is using the mind to survive to the next day. The mind is using the body to endlessly create itself. It's like a symbiosis of two parallel senses of self in two different dimensional rooms. So it's like the body uses the mind as a vehicle, the mind uses the body as a vehicle, then the unknown witness can use the body and the mind simultaneously as a vehicle. And anything observed can usually becomes content to be engaged. That means if you're not in the room, you can't see what's in the room. So when you see something in this world, you're in some sort of room. That means people think there's the concept of a home. How precious. This world is our home. It should be like, where am I till the end of time? You know? This morning, I wondered, how do I feel about my own existence? Regardless of any thought that my mind has ever known, fathomed, conceived, that means as if if I suddenly one day opened my eyes or found myself in a moment where everything had left me. Everything. That means everything left. Everything. Like as if it's one thing. I wondered, and you know what emotion I was left with? I was left with just this emotion of just watching this massive event. And because it's moving, that means it's as if, what does a universal being have to be grateful for? That means it's like a moment becoming aware of all that exists within it. You know what I mean? That means there is no longer God games, God and man games. For a moment, nature and that silent witnessing of the massive event of life just going forth, there comes like a nanosecond of contentment. And if that nanosecond of contentment of being like, okay, I was just part of something and something happened. $8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere. And there is fear, love, enlightenment, afterlives. Like, the world is just activity. And I think the ultimate realization of the unknown is that activity in ultimate peace needs no owner. I think that's the truth of nature. That there never was anything here alone. It's like, how can energy be alone? Okay, I need a more conquering song, guys. Hold on. Perfect. Okay, let's take this up a notch. If we treated knowledge as a battlefield, and like Normandy, we find ourselves in it. First thing is, what is the challenge at hand? That means anytime you open your eyes as a conscious being somewhere, that means you have found yourself in an opportunity to give velocity to some sort of energy, right? That means I can't levitate like objects in front of me, but when I jump in the air, I levitate for a nanosecond, you know. For a second, I levitate. You know, everybody can levitate for a second, you know. So, the eyes have to wonder where they are. Then you can say the verb of having things comes in. So once we notice what we're being, then we can start doing something with what we have. It's as if like it's like first the creature had to open its eyes. Imagine like a mechanic. Imagine like I don't know. Let's call it consciousness, just as general, and just this consciousness arose. Suddenly, this consciousness opened its eyes in the body of a mechanic with a wrench in its hand. And an engine in front of it, right? Now this consciousness, the first thing it has to do is notice that it's something. So this consciousness that teleported into, let's say, the body of a mechanic, the consciousness would be like, oh my God, I'm a mechanic. So the I am. So first in this life, you need to notice yourself to see what you are. Then the mechanic, after noticing itself, it notices what's in its hand. Then the person wonders, what do I have, right? So the mechanic finds like the tool in its hand, the wrench, right? So the mechanic, now the unknown consciousness localized, all right, I'm a mechanic, then localized, I have a tool in my hand, right? Then the next thing is, after you've noticed what you are, then you've noticed what you have, then you need to notice what else. Like, what is the engine doing here? Is that an engine I see? Oh my God, now the wrench in my hand makes sense. Oh my God, is this a civilization I see? Oh, okay, being human now makes sense. You know? I'm just trying to connect the metaphors. So, after you've noticed what you are, after you've noticed what you have, then you've noticed what you can use. And this is where, if many people just use what they have as if like it is their being, it will, like I'm telling you, it will change the life of our species. It wouldn't just change the life of a person. A person's life can change and changes every day pretty much, you know, but the life of the species, systems that haven't updated since like the educational system in Western countries hasn't updated since the 1900s. And conceptually, the educational system doesn't make sense. How can 8 billion beings with different DNA be schooled in the same way to use the same intelligence the same way? It doesn't make sense. It's cloning. The educational system is using the past to clone the potential of novelty in the imagination of the future generations. So the educational system is anti-species right now, right? I would say. You know, it's not helping the person, it's taking from the system. It's like an illusion. It's like, give me the value of all that energy you use. It's like you use all your energy to create something, then you give all that energy away, so in the future you have potential to create something. It's madness. It's madness. So everything has to upgrade. Literally our phones update. There's new patches all the time, right? So civilization needs to update, and the only way it can update, if people stop fucking trying to fit into this shit, you know, and try to build something new. Novelty will honor you. If you go towards novelty, the future generations salute you. If you go towards the past will never accept you. That's the nature of the past. This is why, for example, from a theological view, in the Islamic tradition, some Islamic theologians, for example, they treat it as if like the generations, as if like it was in one of the words of the Prophet of Islam that he said, what was it? He said that the generations after me will be worse, and then the generations after them will be worse, and it'll keep getting worse till the end of days. It's like, holy shit, you know? You know? So it's like this intensity of this dissension process. I mean, that's the whole thing about religion, right? The whole thing is, the whole ideology of religion is that man made a mistake that God couldn't forgive in heaven, but when man is on earth, suddenly his mistakes can be forgiven. So it's this whole thing of us being pushed down, right, and trying to get back up. And I would say religion, it was like a strange backup system to being human. That means sometimes it is true that some systems can be ignorant. Any ideology taken and just stretched in any span, like the longer time goes forth, the more angles we see to everything. So all ideologies in the past feel like a stranger in the future if they don't change. Right? So anyways, this whole dissension, it's like, I don't know, religion makes man feel like we're God's mistake, and God's trying to fix his own mistake, you know? That means it's as if, where did Adam and Eve come from? They came from God. So if Adam and Eve made mistake, it was whose responsibility is that? Right? And who created the snake? You know what I mean? Like these are all things that when you come to just the study of anything, it starts from a singular point, then it branches out, right? It's all branches. I'm telling you, one day we're going to see all ideology, all belief systems were artwork. And belief systems that fought over each other, like led to wars and whatnot. For example, the Crusades and, you know, the Inquisition and various things, you know, the clerical tyrannies of the past and whatnot. I would say the only true religion is beyondism. And the philosophy of beyondism is unknownism. And the philosophy of, and you know, the deeper substructure of unknownism is like, stop asking questions, it's unknown, for God's sake. You know, unless the person renounces, I shouldn't say renounce, it's like when you care to see your true self, you also are in a strange way caring to see beyond yourself. If you know that if you are like your attention is on something beyond the self, then the self's purpose isn't in the driver's seat, right? The moment I realized I have a mind, it was as if like from my dreams as a kid of wanting to be a soccer player, it's as if I'm like, no, there's another stage, there's another field here, right? And right now we're moving in this soccer field of the mind, this mental field, in this mind space, and we're dressing up based on whatever jersey we want. Like it's like it's hilarious how much of identity is just putting on a jersey, you know? Like we can have this, philosophers can totally look at social psychologists and be like, hey, what are you looking at? What do you think people are in the natural world, you know? No long-term project, I feel is very deeply, can be done without honor. You know, there is honor. If the world loses its honors, like we're not human, right? If we start dishonoring the human idea, it's like such a complex situation. It's like, what do multidimensional beings do? Their outer realms is not updated. It's language based. You are individual. The world doesn't even know if it's the world, like what we see is purely, like what percentage of it is matter, what percentage of it is a material, what percentage of it is the observable universe, what percentage of it is a potential of an unobservable multiverse, like, you know? Ah. You know, it's like I don't know. I don't know if what I'm trying to aim for is like the yin yang in no longer in theory but in practice for a multidimensional being, right? That means we look at the material like in front of our eyes, the outer realms, and we're like just like the yin yang symbol in the yin, there's a bit of the yang, right? So in a completely material universe, right, there's a bit of the immaterial in it, right? And in a completely immaterial universe, there is a bit of material in it. You know, that has to be the case. That means it doesn't mean a person specifically, like as the religious lens tries to capture. It doesn't mean it as in the sense of a personality, because decision making is for people, right? We even say animals, they can't their decisions are unconscious. It's their instincts. That means like free will is like awareness beyond the instincts. You know, so it's as if we are calming down the storm, like we're settling the waters of the animal instincts, and through those settled waters, noticing the superior human intelligence. So in a subjective universe, there's an object. So what that means is, to the mind, the body is the small, the mind is the big. To the body, I want to say the mind is small, but a body is just elements. So like, what is causing these causing the periodic table to become some cellular sophistication of a unique genetical, biological architecture? Like when you look at the human being, it's like, who knew like energy after billions of years would turn out to look like this, It's like the hard work of the universe, of the 4.5 billion years of hard work of the universe, its result, its fruits is like what we see now. So technically it took 4.5 billion years to be able to be in a world to have this. That means it took us 4.5 billion years to conceive history. So we can do something where we say, in the outer realms, a person is like, how would I say it? Okay, my eyes are right now open. I'm looking at this piece of paper in front of me. So the outer realms is there without my effort. Just the effort is just the instantaneously, the outer realm attention is being an object. So it's very hard to tell if consciousness could exist or could even identify itself if there was no object around. Now, if there was no object around, the deeper mystery would be that, could objects be mind, right? We're looking at the mind and we're like, we're saying objects led to the subject, right? Brain first, then person. But this would be that the subject was there first. That means the idea of a human being, as if it's like a three-dimensional being had decided, like a higher dimensional being has already made a decision of wanting to paint a picture, and when it enters the realm, all that decision is there, you know? Because the biggest question would be, it's like what, like sometimes it's the question like, why are we here, right? And it's like the person wondering why are they being a human? Why is existence as a human simultaneously being consciousness, the experience of consciousness? You know what it is? It's like the mind is the god of another universe, but it has its hands in this universe through the body. Anyways. Okay, now I gotta honestly say, like, what is the proof, right? So the proof is, we ask what is, like, from a philosophical proof, I should have said. But it's like, how can an object move itself? It can't. So it has to be something else, so the body is a vehicle when you notice it. That's my point, right? So just like how we say a thought can't think, you know, the thinker can't be a thought, you know, how can a thought think? So it's like the same way of saying, how can an object move itself, right? And that movement is not an object, right? And so this it opens up the stage for like the scientists of the future to wonder, all right, how are we going to treat space? That's the hardest thing. Like after, let's say we found solutions to gravity, and I think even all the mysteries of gravity and what we do with time, you know, is it paint we're splashing on the universe, or is it an actuality, you know? For example, the ancient Greeks had 2 senses of time, but I'm not going to get into it now. It's as if minds are waiting, not realizing their body is waiting for their mind. You know, that means I was like, okay, what's the best gift I can give my grandkids, great grandkids? And I'm like, okay, let's clean up the universal sector a little bit, right? That means Jordan, there was this very incredible scholar and speaker, his name is Jordan Peterson. In his book, he had written the statement, clean your room, but he meant it as like a kind of virtuous value, something to incorporate as part of your value system. But now, imagine cleaning your universal room, but not in accordance with ideology. You're not like it's not like a sort of a fascism of the inner realms on the outer realms. It's it's like, this guy's an inner realm fascist, you know? Oh man, that's tops one of the you know, one of the most ridiculous things I've ever said. It's like an inner realm fascist. What does that mean? It's like the person's just commanding their inner realm. So what I'm trying to, okay, I shouldn't laugh about fascism. Oh my God, I'm pretty much saying that the inner realms can move the outer realms can move the inner realms. If the person is weak and if the child is emotionally disturbed, at a young age, the child will allow the outer realms to move the inner realms. If we think about it, that a human being is an emotional decision, and this emotional decision is between all the moments, like if a line is made of smaller dots, right? So it's as if the human life, or who we are as a being, is made of all these moments we've traveled through, we've tunneled through. A term I coined was experience tunneling. It's in a book. Hopefully, I think in the next week I'll have all my books up. And when the soul finds something important to it, it goes wild, right? That's the cool thing. It's like, you know how the ape saw, like, imagine like the primitive caveman seeing fire, being like, oh, you know, like the ape man freaking out, you know? It's like human beings seeing truth. It's like all the relationships of metaphysics and stories that we tell ourselves are a reaction to a truth. That means the truth is in the room, and we have seen it. It's just the way we are reacting to it is like an illusion. That means it's like in whatever life the person is thrown, the question, who am I, being like pulling what is meant to happen. You see, it's like who is walking here? What is moving? This question can lead to endless philosophies ad infinitum. I feel what will happen is that people will break to themselves. And it will start happening faster and faster and faster. And people are going to be like, we're suffering. You know, why is it speeding up the suffering? And that suffering is going to speed up until the person is like, okay, enough. That's where I would say the visions of an advanced civilization occur. And it's as if the future is the guardian angel of the past. That means, you know how they would say in from a theological lens, it's like, oh my God, is that a devil on your shoulder? Is that like an angel on your other shoulder? And the person's like, I don't remember renting my shoulders to duality. But so now imagine the devil on the shoulder. I think it was the left shoulder. The devil on the left shoulder was the past telling the present what to do. And the angel on the right shoulder was the future telling what the person does. Right? Because only when you care for the future, you want to do the right thing. If you don't care for the future, it's so easy to descend to animalism. Right? That means sometimes I look at people who are like violent in society, in human society. I'm like, okay, if the person really wanted to be violent, why not go like be like Tarzan and go into nature and fight with like wild animals instead of disturbing the human psychological opportunity to advance whatever is remaining. It's like we're survivors on a island, but it's on a galactic scale. And instead of water, it's space, you know? That means to me, all the other planets are like islands, right? And we don't know what sort of species-like psychology could be there, right? We could become such advanced communicators that we go on the moon, we send like psychics up the, like... we send psychics, like the first psychic, imagine the first yogi. Right? Imagine somebody like Adi Yogi. We send the first Adi Yogi up to the moon, right? And people are like, oh my God, NASA has done something never thought of in history. They sent a holy man up to the moon. And the holy man was totally able to get through the training and everything. Why? Because the holy man was already in divine union with God. So to the holy man, this was all God. Like people from NASA asking him to come and go to space. It was all God happening, God moving to him. You know what I mean? It was all God's will, like to him, you know, an inseparability of nature moving things regardless of what the ideology is. right? So imagine that yogi now goes on the moon or goes on Mars, right? And imagine this yogi becomes known not as the first person who stepped on the moon, but the first person who meditated on the moon. That means if if the person on the moon had done a handstand, that person would also be the first person who did a handstand on the moon. Do you know what I mean? You know? Or the first person who breakdanced on the moon, you know? So imagine that yogi going on the moon, right? Sitting down and suddenly watching how the inner realms moves now. And the yogi, the talent of the mystic is that it's easy to be selfless. For many people, it's hard, right? But when you realize the true nature of this realm is unknown, selflessness becomes like a joyous wind, right? There's some things that, like when I speak, I will tell you, it's like a chain of command. It's a chain of intuition. It's a system, right? And then these systems are not just there. These, as you can say, systems are fighting for authorization in primordial awareness. So anyways, imagine that yogi goes and starts meditating on the moon and suddenly begins noticing all the events that took place, energetic remnants of behaviors of, it doesn't matter because that leaks, right? Observability of bodyhood doesn't, but energy leaks from dimensions, I would say. It's like energy is a multidimensional phenomena, sight is a singular phenomena, imagine. So it's like any moment the attention in the sight notices it is energy, it knows its multiplicity. A vehicle is something that in order to prove that the body is a vehicle, I'll go here. I'll take the talk here. If the body is to be a vehicle, it has to have certain qualities of, one, being able to be navigated, being able to that means it's like you're not in a vehicle if you can't control the vehicle. You're, you know, that means if you can't even enter it, right? So navigation, it's like entrance is one factor. You have to be able to enter it and exit it. Then you have to be able to move it and stop it. So that comes to the point of navigation I was making. Then another thing about a vehicle is that you need to have a destination. That's when we get into vehicles, right? Transportation is to get us somewhere. You know, I mean, this is something I'm saying, of course, kindly, but for those people who are, for example, they consider they are living in their cars, for example, it's as if treating that as if you're on a giant road trip. So, navigation, entrance, exiting the vehicle, and I think, yeah, it comes down to that pretty much. Oh, and seating. You need to have space in the vehicle. So the space inside the vehicle is important and the space outside. I mean, that falls into the entering and exiting. So what does that mean? That means if we experience ourselves inside the body, That's one check mark, okay? So we're inside it like a vehicle. If we experience our body is in our awareness, that is like a glow of the candle, like the mind, that's like being outside of the body, right? So it's as if the body is a vehicle, we're inside and outside at the same time. And whenever the attention goes outside, the person's like, oh my God, I'm out of my body. But it's not, you're not out of your body. You know, you're just in your mind. You know, it's like your body's in your mind. So we can enter, we are getting an experience of being in the body. We are the experiencer of what is outside of the body. That's how we know the space outside. And of course, the two biological eyes are like the front view window, like they're the windshield, right? And the ears, let's say they're like all the other senses are like the mirrors, you know? And at the same time, this body requires fuel, and its fuel depletes, and it needs to constantly be refueled, right? These are again signs like it's a vehicle, right? Also, it has radio. You know, you can close your eyes and change the channel, you know, listen sometimes, you know, listen to music sometimes, listen to news, you know. So it has even like the vehicle, like a car, it has an antenna too, you know. It is an antenna. It's a vehicle dash antenna, to be honest, but let's just go with the vehicle metaphor. So everything suggests it's a vehicle. Now the next question comes after. So let's say, I don't know, I feel I've proved it's a vehicle. I think I did it, guys, you know. But anyways, now let's take the question up a notch. Let's not just wonder if the body is a vehicle. Let's say if it's a vehicle, let's truly wonder how we can drive it. Now, for me, my vehicle of choice, like for me, the concept of a pilot, that's like the honor of my soul. For me, like how samurais, like I'm not a pilot, you know, in the outer realms, but just the concept of flying in an unknown sky, and how it's a plane of existence that the psychology of the mind appears in, and the attention, if it is unconditional and it remembers. It's like your third eye not opening. It's like your third eye opening the world. You know, the eyes can be a great source of lies, you know. The eyes, one's eyes can lie to them. I'm telling you. A person, just like there's optical illusions, I would say there's optical illusions in the inner realms as well, right? Language can live people's lives for them, right? It's as if, imagine a person was born, and this kid was born, and this kid wanted to be a violinist, right? And back in the day, in religious communities, music, like being a bard or something, that was shunned. That was seen as like some weird thing. It's like, that's not holy at all, right? So you know what I mean? It was seen as having a dimension of ignorance to it. So music, from the religious angle, from the extreme, I shouldn't say extreme, from the like staying true to what religion was, it's like it doesn't, like I'm not talking about choir and something like that. I'm just saying it was the attitude to the music, as if it was something else, you know. There was something else was in the moment. But so it's as if, imagine you, like a child is born in that religious environment back in the day, and that child wanted to be a musician. That child somehow felt endlessly pulled towards, like, I don't know, some instrument, let's say a drum or a violin, right? Not probably like something similar to a violin, you know. And so that person, if they allowed the language of the environment to live their life for them, they would never pick up the violin. The religious environment would be like, yo, don't touch, you know, ignorance kid, and the kid's gonna be like, oh, okay, if everybody's telling me not to touch ignorance, I won't touch ignorance, and the kid never realizes like the parallel universe of the great violinist, for example, that kid could have done, right? So that's when language came and took the person's life, right? So the first strategy is to wake up from the linguistic simulation, right? Then a self-appreciation of how you are a causal position. It's like, where is your life's energy coming from? Just ask that question and you'll be enlightened in an instant. People are making too big of a deal, out of enlightenment. It's like the light is in your eyes in an instant. That's the mystery. So let's treat the body. I would my approach, if I treated myself as a pilot, like a I don't know, pilot with a mystical mindset. I don't know, from the mystical lens and through the approach of piloting, it's as if the body is an airplane. Okay, so the pilot is not the airplane, right? The passengers, they treat it as if it's like it's not their responsibility to pilot the plane, right? So their responsibility is like, just calm down so the pilot doesn't freak out, Attention every person has to reverse engineer back into their principal universal philosophy. I called it in a book, principal universal philosophy. That means regardless of what anyone has said, there is a way every human being's eyes have opened to the world, and the way it opens up in youth is through emotional acceptance, then through articulation. That means most people are, I feel, living like emotional breezes, right? That means the emotion is animating the decision making, and it's like, on one level, if we become too intellectually mechanical, we forget we are emotional expression, like we become, it's like, we forget our multidimensional birthright. If we become too emotional, everybody's just emotionally deciding things, that's another way of saying that's like chaos with a disguise of goodness, you know what I mean? So there so but at the same time, the emotion is necessary, so it has to be kind of like a blend. A blend of piloting, or I shouldn't say piloting, being aware of emotions and then piloting the attention as an object. That means it's like suddenly even this concept of life and death strangely evaporates when you realize you are an unknown attention. When you're an unknown attention, how can you fear what you are? And I will tell you what the gift is. The gift is, if you choose to be known, you will fear, or you will blindly love. But if you can be content with the unknown, that means regardless of your work, regardless of your knowledge, regardless of your love, regardless of your meditation, let the universal eyes breathe in you. That means all like individual activity, like a person's activity, like most people, they're living for their families, right? And most families are living for their societies, and most societies are living for their nation. The different kinds of social systems we find under one flag. then most nations, I shouldn't say most nations, it's weird. When it comes to nationalism it gets weird, but but it's as if like if it's gonna get to a point where imagine most nations cared about their global, like it was every system. That means there was no such thing as weakness, there was just endless advancement. That's it. Because the more advanced we get, the more ways we can process something. The more ways we can process something, the more ways we can create stories of acceptance of something. And life surpasses shape. What do we do with that? It's like, how can I shape it for you that life surpasses shape? You know, that means when you talk about the unknown, you have no other choice than to become a poet. It's like you automatically become a poet. We pilot as presence. That way we are not ignorant and we don't forget the life sensitivity of the collective opportunity. Right? Everybody is searching, like, let's say something cool, okay? And the coolest thing we can see is the activation of intelligence. That means no longer seeing people as friends or foes, seeing human members of your species. Like, it's like that's what I want to see, the honor of the global that came about when we aimed universal, right? So we are aiming for universal ability, right? So if we aim for universal ability, local ability should be super easy, right? That means it's like this is hilarious, but like when, let's say, a person wants to go to a nightclub, they don't think about how they're walking, you know what I mean? Like, they don't think about like the walking, right? Like, am I taking the right steps? You know, they're just going to the destination, right? It's like all that things become go on to the sub level. That means a way we can even use our subconscious and the unconscious is that ideologies that don't serve us, rather than if it's hard to get rid of it, at least we can push it into the unconscious until we're ready to look at it again. You know, I have had moments where I can tell you I've been like just in a certain mood, and then I've had a thought, and the thought was unnecessary. That means the thought, like I would say not all thoughts are from a person. Not all thoughts are from within, by the way. That means it's like I've had moments where I've thrown thoughts out of my moment. Literally imagine you being an astronaut and you're tired of eating apples, and an apple just floats in the space station in front of you, and you grab the apple and you like kind of you want to throw it at first really fast, but then you throw it slowly, you know. I don't know. It's like on some level nature is doing its thing. We're just tagging along. And in another way, the mystery of the inseparability of the self and the world makes us feel we're all of nature at once. That means it's very hard for me to say if I'm like right now the personality or I'm the whole universe happening. Like, can the viewers tell? Can you tell if I am the whole at the universal event taking place, like one universal existential event where we can't separate it, right? Or is it like a classified experience through language? And I'm telling you, when you truly notice the presence of nature, that's, you just snap out of the linguistic simulation instantly. There's no other way. Like, it just happens. You can't be a human being conditioned in a inhumane or dehumanized system, a system in a machine-like system, and suddenly go to nature and not remember you're natural. Like, it just happens automatically, you know. And the more selfless the person is, the more the world shows you itself. the more selfish you are, the world doesn't show you itself, you show yourself to yourself. Attention is the pilot. Study your attention, and you have studied the auto. You have studied where life is happening. And so, how can a multidimensional being be content with the proofs of a single dimension? As Dylan Thomas said, do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. That means I am waiting to see a multidimensional rebellion. It's like this wind, this giant wind of just human beings being like, wait a minute, it's not about choosing this dimension or that dimension. We can always see new dimensions, and all information on some level before we emotionally make it into a narrative is just geometry and design, right? So we become like kind of like surfers. We become geometry surfers, then emotional narratives come about, right? That way the information of your realm fascinates you. It's like there's no greater teacher than wonder, an unknown awe. That's where the unknown ahas come from. Yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. Awesome. Oh yeah, what did I write in the subtitle? Where witnessing matter leads, and where it leads is to the contentment of the witness as it is. That means when you see that how easy it is for a bird and a squirrel to just be a part of this world, they don't suffer. They don't have they don't think about their extinction and suffer, in anguish, live their lives. They are like a part of nature, and we can be a part of nature, and everything else is the luxury of just the opportunity of how far civilization's advancing. It's still like endless room to advance. So yeah, thanks for listening. Namaste.